Genome testing gives us way more data so that way we aren't flying totally blind. I got a joke today. It's a really good one. What did the DNA say to the other DNA? Did these genes make me look fat? That was a good one, Cool Kev. What up, y'all, and welcome back to the FitMenCook kitchen and to a brand spanking new episode of Breadcrumbs. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Let's hop right into today's topic because I'm actually really legit excited about it. We're gonna be talking today about DNA-based diets, or better explained, crafting a diet based off of genetic markers and correlations.
DNA strand, like me, is a blueprint for building a living thing.
That clip, it made me think of the exact same thing, but this is something that I first became aware of about 2 years ago when I was in Tel Aviv for this food tour. And for about 30 minutes, I just watched this presentation about it, and my jaw was open, eyes wide open, because the different applications for this type of technology are just incredibly promising. One of the biggest challenges that I find in dieting and nutrition has been finding ways to make meal plans as personalized as possible and getting past that frustration of throwing stuff at the wall to find out what works. That's why some diets that have been coming out right now, like the blood type diet and the personality type diet, are so popular because we're all trying to cut those corners. They are designed around these markers that the creators believe are better indicators as to whether or not you will have success in your diet. And knowing that information up front saves you a lot of time and energy proving what actually works. So I get it. And while those diets are a step in the right direction compared to more broad stroke diets like keto and veganism, or even something like Atkins, they're still not as individually tailored as a DNA-based diet. You can draw a bit of a parallel between nutrition and fashion. Different colors and fabrics go in and out of style, and so do different fits. That's why you know that you have your general size. You have a large shirt, a 32-inch waist pants, and then size 10 shoes. But each brand and style will fit you slightly differently, right? That's like a lot of the mainstream diets. They are off-the-rack stuff, and you learn what fits you by trying on different things. And that's okay because we should be experimenting so long as we're not putting our health at risk. But the DNA diet is like going to a tailor and getting your chest, your neck, your waist, your inseam, all that measured, and deciding on which fabrics and colors complement you and your lifestyle and your complexion, and then having pieces made that fits you in the way that you want it to. Basically, like the tailor's tape, genomic testing gives you the information that you need to craft a truly personalized meal plan that's perfectly suited to you as an individual. So I did it, and I'll share some of those findings within a minute, but I wanted to give you some of the pros and cons about what people are saying about it. Like most things in the nutrition and wellness industry, the DNA diet is being met with a healthy dose of skepticism. And that's a good thing because we should always be careful about what we put into our bodies and who we're listening to. Critics are pointing to the high price tag, the inaccessibility of DNA testing. They're doubting the accuracy and also the validity of some of the results because it is such a new idea. However, proponents of it are quick to mention that the cost of getting your hands on this type of information is actually going down. And while the field is relatively new, the data gathered by genome testing is hardly ever wrong. And as genome testing continues to grow, as more people submit to DNA testing for random purposes like, the ancestry, the accuracy and correlations of things will likely improve. So even if it's not totally comprehensive, you're still getting way more accurate information and more actionable info than you have ever had before. And you'll probably have moments like I did when you're like, so that's why I'm feeling that way, or that's why that tastes that way. The most important thing to keep in mind though, and this applies to nearly everything in health and wellness, or just in life in general, is this rule, is that correlation does not imply causation. I learned this as a concept because it was stressed to me in grad school, trying to determine the effectiveness of different policies and programs and laws. For example, you'll often hear that people say that the vegan diet is healthy because it's just vegetables, and many people have reported significant weight loss and heart healthiness while following a plant-based diet. So some will say, go vegan to lose weight. Why? Because the vegan diet has a correlation with weight loss for some people. But as we all know, you can still be vegan and still be obese and have health-related issues. It's just associated with weight loss because there are other factors that influence weight loss, such as portion control, eating too many simple carbs and sugars, and the list goes on. So correlation is not causation. Genome testing is the same way. It reveals genetic markers that are unique to you and correlated to certain diseases, predispositions, and deficiencies that exist in a population. So while it doesn't say that, like if you have this particular genome type, that you are going to have this thing happen to you. It does, however, empower you with a whole lot of data that you didn't know about before, which you could use to make informed decisions about your eating habits and your healthy lifestyle in general. You get to know your body intimately, and that's one of the most important things that I found. And so that's why when I was sitting there doing that presentation in Tel Aviv, it was like fireworks going off of my head about the potential for this is just so huge. Never before in history have we had this kind of data readily available at such the individual level, and then we could understand it too. So I got my genome tested, and I use a service that runs data against thousands of different studies to give me a report to craft my meal plan and my nutritional strategy. I started with the 123andme.com and then allowed this company called LifeNome to access these data. Once the test results come back, they will send you an email, and that gives you access to their online portal, and you can click through everything, or you can just request for a PDF download, and that's what I have right here. This is a pretty extensive report. It's about 180 pages, and I know just the sound of that, it seems pretty overwhelming. They do a really good job of breaking down the data so that way it's color-coded and you can walk through it section by sections. The report starts out, it shows you the good genes, and the good genes are places where you are slightly advantaged or just advantaged. And then the other one would be your risky genes. And you see I got a whole lot of these, a whole lot of risk right here. This is why I highly recommend this, because I walked through this report first with one of the representatives and then later on by myself, and it was just really good to just absorb the information. And I know that it can be like an info overload right away, so don't look at it as you have to change everything about your diet today. You have to change everything about your eating habits right now. This, again, is just information, and this is just correlation. Okay, so don't take anything that I'm sharing today as this is what's going to happen to me and this is why. These things can just explain some things that you probably already know about yourself, but you just did not have the capacity to really explain them. And now today you're like, oh, okay, this totally makes sense. So grain of salt, guys. So here is a great example. According to this report, I have 3 genetic variations that are linked to a slightly elevated risk of having difficulty in losing weight. The report actually recommends that I consume about 10% less than the recommended caloric restrictions recommended by tools like the Mayo Clinic Healthy Weight Pyramid. This made me think about a couple years ago when I was at my leanest, and everyone was saying that I was eating too few calories. And I was eating around 1,700 calories a day, but I felt perfectly fine. But when I tried to up them to the optimal amount for me, which is around 2,500, 3,000, the weight loss stalled and I began to gain weight. And this has happened to me so many times with different trainers and nutritionists. They'll always start me out on this recommended plan and then get frustrated with the results because they're not as quick, and then they'd lower the calories and things would just improve. So now I have this information, it's like a confirmation or something that I always felt, but never had the data to really back it up. So now, if I were to start up a new plan with the new trainer or nutritionist tomorrow, I could share this information and say, hey, let's just start out with slightly lower calories, just a bit, and this is the reason why. So if you followed FitMenCook for long enough, then you know that one of my least favorite foods of all time has got to be Brussels sprouts. I just hate them. So now I understand why. I'm actually predisposed to despise things like Brussels sprouts because this test shows that I have bitter taste sensitivity. This implies that you may find it difficult to eat dark leafy green veggies, in particular broccoli or Brussels sprouts. So I could not wait to share this with my parents because as a kid, I was that kid at the table that would cry because a mom said, you better eat that food, and I just hated it. Like, it just tasted so disgusting to me. And my parents can cook. We had soul food, but I still hated Brussels sprouts. And now I take it back to my mom and I said, hey, you are forcing me to eat something that I just wasn't genetically born to actually like. How do you feel as a mother?
What's this stuff that looks like sand?
It's quinoa. Peter, knock it off.
I can't help it. My body's rejecting it.
And here's the beauty about this report too. It actually shows you maybe how to enjoy the food. So it says things like this. It says, if you feel adventurous, Try things like adding honey, some sweetness to some Brussels sprouts, which I actually have. I have the maple Brussels sprouts, which I said I liked. So this report is just teaching me what I've been discovering on, like all along about like how to make things taste better that are so bitter to me. It's giving me, data to say, hey man, you aren't crazy, Kev. And your mom was really awful for making you eat that. Sorry, Mom, I'm just kidding. I'm just playing, Mama, golly. And so the aha moments just kept going. Another one that I was really surprised about, but now I have data behind it, is the satiety impairment. So this one was actually in the red, meaning highly elevated. This one basically says that it refers to the physical sensation of fullness from eating. When satiety is normal, the brain receives a signal that, that enough calories have been consumed, reducing the feeling of hunger. So, at times when people ask me how I started to lose weight, and then I always preach about mindfulness and eating slower. Well, this is one of the reasons why. I eat too fast because I don't feel full, and so I'll just continue to eat. But the slower I've actually eaten, the more aware I am, and I'm giving the time basically for the signal from my stomach to reach my brain to say, hey, Kevin, stop eating. Now that was something that I figured out all along, right, with this whole journey. But here it is in black and white for the first time. I just didn't even know that. I'm like, oh wow, this is actually a thing. Maybe the signal from your brain is a little bit slow, like mine. I imagine it looks like Homer Simpson or like Peter Griffin from Family Guy. So if you followed me for long enough, then you know that one of the things that I've been struggling with my entire life has been depression and anxiety. And one of the biggest moments for me with this report was this information on magnesium deficiency. Magnesium is an important electrolyte needed for proper muscle function, strong bones, and good heart health. Now, imbalances have been linked to various complications such as cramps, constipation, poor sleep, tension, migraine headaches, anxiety and depression, chronic fatigue, and menstrual syndrome. So this kept popping up in other areas of the report because I was at a higher risk for having depression and anxiety. This popped out because it's one of the first ways that I've kind of understood that this could be linked to diet. And so it talks about having foods that are rich in magnesium, such as nuts and seeds and legumes, oats, bananas, and dark chocolate. And this was a great moment for me too, because I took this part of the study back to my dad and we talked about it. And he said, we thought the same thing when you were growing up. We thought that there was something like a little bit, off. We didn't really know what, but again, they're making decisions based off of the information that they had. So now in 2019, we had this information right in front of us. I have an understanding of how food can also make me feel since I'm at higher risk for something. So yeah, this report is filled with different aha moments. I'm not gonna go through, plus some of this stuff is really personal. It even gets into some of the physical pieces as well. I wasn't in the red for anything here when it came to my physical health. I was actually advantaged a little bit. I had good overall fitness benefits. I had a high response to resistance training, which I've known all along, that I've kind of figured that out. And then I'm also good here with the exercise benefits for a maximal oxygen uptake response, which means I'm good in like spurts of things. Now, if you put me around the track and try to do a mile, you're gonna have to roll me around in a stretcher because I'm just not gonna make it. But these short, maximal bursts of energy, I'm good at. So in all, just remember that the results of this kind of report aren't meant to be like a GPS coordinate that lay out every step that you'll take on your journey. They're more like a map that give you the lay of the land so you can make more informed decisions as it relates to you and only you. And what I loved about these examples is that they just confirmed a lot of things for me that I was already thinking about myself, but I never had the words to fully express. This report gave me something like it was a sense of closure or just a confirmation of what I was already feeling. And now I feel empowered to make decisions about my health because I know I'm right. I know that it's true. I would recommend looking into this if you're a parent, because a lot of times kids can't express how food tastes or how it makes them feel. So being equipped with this type of info could help you to craft better meal plans for them and even understand some of their behavior. It's not going to lead to a total absence of the problems, but it will help you to approach them in a much more strategic way. Life's about trying different things and seeing what works best for you, and I would never discourage that. However, You just can't put yourself at risk. And genome testing gives us way more data, so that way we aren't flying totally blind. So the more informed we are, the better decisions that we can make, and the more likely our diet and our nutrition plans will lead to a healthier and happier lifestyle over the long haul, and then we'll actually stick to it. I will say one last thing about this is that you have to be ready to embrace the results. Sometimes the information that's shared about you is not as savory, and so you may feel a certain way about it. So you just gotta know, are you ready to learn more about yourself? I know that's a really easy question, but something that I don't think that a lot of people really think about. What does this actually mean? Because now you're going to be responsible, much more responsible for the decisions that you make. And also, I don't want you to take the data and go overboard and start thinking like, this is the way that I'm supposed to eat now. I can only have this because, no, remember, correlation is not causation. So just because you have these genes that are correlated with higher risk factors does not mean that you're gonna go and get whatever they're saying. All right, so please keep that in mind, the more you know. So that is it for today's episode, guys. I want y'all to comment below if you've ever done DNA testing or some genome testing, or if you are considering it. If you have done it, comment below with the service that you used, and I will post the links to LifeGnome below as well, so you can check it out if you are so inclined to go and do that. This is something, guys, that is brand new, but I'm really excited about the potential because, again, this type of information, even just 10 years ago, was so expensive to get, but now because of technology, it's cheaper, but also we have more resources to make sense of it all, which is a really good thing. So keep that in mind. All right, guys, thank y'all for watching. Until next time, keep it healthy, but of course, never, ever boring. Ooh! Bye, guys.